This is Sky 12, and this is Sky 12 pilot Travis Blair, and I'm Sue Kalberg. He's the one who flies the bird, and I'm the one who shoots the video. And we know that during the rush to tell all of those important people stories during the Great Flood of '98, of lives saved and lives lost, there simply wasn't enough time to share all our aerial video.
But the video is really great, and we know you'll love it.
So, if you live in Schertz, Cibolo, Lavernia, Sutherland Springs, New Braunfels, Seguin, Gonzales, Cuero, Victoria, or somewhere in between, rest assured, if you look deep enough, you will recognize your community. And believe me, we may have been down under the water, but we in South Texas have not been down for the count. Now, what you'll see is a couple of stories that actually aired on KSAT 12 News, but mostly what we've included here is video you've never seen before and interviews with some of the people closest to the center of the storm. So watch with awe the spectacle of the Great Flood of '98 as it tries and fails to rip the heart right out of the KSAT 12 viewing area. Come with us, the best seat in the house, here in Sky 12.
Because we're partial to helicopters, we'll start in Victoria with some very brave men in their marvelous flying machines.
Sky 12 over Victoria, the perfect place to watch a Coast Guard Dolphin helicopter searching for signs of life in a raging river. Pilot Daryl Creasy.
We saw someone waving like a white cotton towel or something out the window, so we decided to go down and check it out.
They find two elderly women, one of them in a wheelchair. Rescue swimmer Roger Westerhoff fights not only water but incredible wind.
Our rotor wash is in the excess of 200 miles an hour. One thing we have to look at when we go do a rescue, given that, is we can't get too close to the victim because we're creating the tidal wave on them, a wind-driven tidal wave. And if we get too close to them, then we can actually drown them ourselves.
For the swimmer, it is literally a shocking experience.
And also, he has static electricity to deal with because we generate an incredible amount of electricity with our helicopter. And once he comes in contact with the ground, it's very common for him to get a very big jolt of electricity.
In addition to the static, there are live power lines everywhere.
And we knew that there was power in the area because all of the traffic signals were still lit. My concern the whole time was if I didn't maintain a stable hover and if I drifted in any direction, that our metal cable was going to impact the lines.
In 4 hours, this crew lifts 25 people and 4 dogs to high, dry, safe ground.
Do you feel like a hero?
No, not really. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like I did my job. The training that the Coast Guard has given me worked. And personally for me, this is a reason that I joined the Coast Guard, to save people. And what's next? Where's the next person?
But you're still left with a smile at the end of the day.
Most definitely.
Most definitely indeed. With Sky 12, Sue Kalberg, KSAT 12 News. It's a Sky 12 view of Victoria under siege. Tuesday, with the Guadalupe River capturing more territory by the moment, the crew of a Sikorsky Blackhawk helicopter risks it all to save an elderly couple. It's a rescue bird with a crew of 4 and an amazing tale to tell.
When you're sitting in the cockpit and the trees are flopping around and the water's rippling, keeping a good reference point to keep the aircraft steady is difficult.
Without all 4 of us working together as a team, there is no way that we could have done that mission.
John was looking towards the back to make sure the tail rotor didn't go into the trees. David was looking to the left, as was I, to make sure we didn't get close to that big tree. And Mark was on the controls, and he was looking outside, doing what we call scanning to make sure the aircraft didn't drift.
Dodging a rooftop antenna, they drop a diver and a sheriff's deputy into danger.
The fire department diver went into the house, brought them out, put them in the basket. The main concern, of course, is somebody panicking and doing something that could cause them to be injured.
It's got to be a little tense.
A little bit, yeah, we were sweating.
It's a very draining experience because you're constantly, I mean, your adrenaline's running, and you're just, you know, you're using every bit of concentration that you have to try to fly the aircraft.
They gave us the thumbs up, saying that they were all secure inside the basket. Then the crew members in the back told us that it was time to go straight up.
Straight up and away over an angry enemy.
Mainly flying back, the concern was getting too much forward speed and getting too much wind in the basket, because that can cause it to spin as well.
The landing is an answer to their prayers. Perfect. In the Great Flood of '98, this battle belongs to a Black Hawk.
And I'll tell you, me and Mark high-fived each other after we knew they were safe on the ground.
It must be a wonderful feeling.
It's the best. I don't think I can describe it.
The self-satisfaction that you derive from it, and knowing that you were able to help out your fellow Texans. You know, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but that's really kind of the way it is. That's what it's all about.
On 1310 AM KPOZ, while watching Channel 12, a few nights ago I saw an incredible piece of work by photographer Sue Kalberg, who also served as a reporter, an aerial reporter over the city of... Hello, Sue.
Good morning, Steve.
It is a pleasure to have you on here.
Well, thanks.
You did a great job.
I appreciate that. There are an awful lot of people out there who are doing an awful lot of just absolutely amazing work, and you know, part of the beauty of the helicopter work that I've been able to do is due to my pilot, Travis Blair. He is one of the best in the country, if not the universe. He's the man. He knows how to put those pictures right out the window and make it happen, and make us all live through the experience, which in times like this is it's a factor.
When Mr.
Let me set the scene for you in Victoria. Homes being inundated by the moment because the river's just rising. Here's a Coast Guard helicopter hovering over a house. So we knew they were trying to effect a rescue. And so the way we operate is that we circle a helicopter, a rescue helicopter, in a counterclockwise fashion. And we see another guy on a rooftop, you know, just at his 9 o'clock. So we tell him, hey, you know, buddy, when you're through with that guy over here, here's another guy. So in the process of rescuing the first person, we find another one, and in the process of finding the second one, they find a third one, and then the work went on and on and on. The Coast Guard people pulled 25 people and 4 dogs in just a short amount of time off of out of, you know, places in the Victoria area, and the National Guard did another awesome job. I shot some video that I couldn't believe, and I can't tell you how hard we're sitting there watching them, just praying as hard as I have ever prayed in my life for these people who are risking their lives, and you know, for the most part it's elderly people, because, you know, they have seen it all. They're 70, they're 80 years old. They have never seen anything like this. They cannot believe it will happen to them, so they stay put, and they are the most vulnerable. And there they are, you know, their lives dangling on a very thin thread, several hundred feet over raging water. I mean, it chokes you up to think that of the spectacle, and you just pray so hard that they're going to make it to dry land, and it's one miracle after another.
Heroics that we'll never know of. Terrific work behind the scenes, and I was so impressed. I was impressed by the way you told the story, by the pictures you showed, and by pilot Blair.
Travis Blair, yeah.
Travis Blair, the work you did, and you should certainly be so proud of that, and you just have a perspective that many of us will never know.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. When I talked to the Lieutenant Colonel in Austin with the Texas Guard, he was up. Yesterday he was chipper, and as you said, you nailed it. That's why they got in the business, and they were just doing their job.
It's not a normal day at the office, though.
No, not a normal day at the office, but a day at their office. I mean, that's the way they do things. Thank you for that.
Doesn't it make you proud to be an American, though? Just to watch stuff like that? I mean, it's your tax money at work, and boy, is it working.
No, but, you know, every once in a while, we just have to realize nobody really does it better. For all the bitching that goes on, nobody does it better.
Yeah.
Military aircraft aren't the only ones in the rescue business. For a time, our own Sky 12 is commandeered and pressed into service to save the lives of 8 people. People grateful to be airlifted away from homes underwater. Gary and Amanda Williams say they watched the water come up a quarter mile in 15 minutes.
We blocked things up as high as we could get them, and when we went by, we saw the waters over top of the house.
We got married in that house,
yeah.
And it just breaks my heart because that's my dad's house, and the house has a lot of special memories in it.
We had approximately 65 people across the creek here at the Guadalupe County line. It's turned into a multiple county rescue. We got all the people out, but we failed to get assistance from the county. We more or less been trying to get equipment and stuff ourselves. We got people stuck in the trees. They rescued them. Right now they're going for a couple of people in a house. The lady's bedridden, and that should complete the rescue at this time.
The danger's not over, though. Just take a look at this frightening video. A light flashing from the trees, indicating someone is still stuck there in the dark, waiting for rescue. It was too dark and too dangerous for Sky 12 to make a difference, but eventually, volunteer firefighters were able to save them. In the same area in East Bexar County, sunrise Sunday, October 18th brings no relief. Here's an eerie image, an abandoned freeway, I-10 closed at the angry Cibolo. With so many roads impassable, our KSAT 12 ground crews simply couldn't get to many of the most heavily damaged areas right away. Take the Schertz area, for example. You're looking east along FM 78 at 1518. Whitewater Rapids are running right over the remains of Ken's Trading Post. It used to be a furniture store and a trailer park, but it's been blasted to bits. Emergency officials in Schertz say over 200 people were evacuated from a senior citizen home. 400 homes have water in them, 75 businesses damaged as well. And on Old Main Street, where there has never been water before, there is now. They call it the flood of all floods. And just downstream from Schertz, a DPS helicopter appears. The pilot says there's a report of a man being washed downstream on driftwood. We look for him too, but it's an unsuccessful search. Then near Cibolo, more water wonders as a mobile home is cracked completely in half and wrapped around a tree. North of Lavernia, we see a lone horse struggling to survive. We learn it's a registered and rare Spanish Mustang. While this horse made it back home, 3 others belonging to the same Lavernia family are still missing. The children are still hopeful that a small reward being offered will lead to some answers about their missing pets.
I'm Kip Workman, and I'm the chief of the Lavernia Volunteer Fire Department. We've got 40 volunteers at the department, and the ones that showed up and were able to respond that afternoon stayed there. Most of them took off work and stayed there from anywhere from 2 days to 4 days. I credit them with most of the everything good that happened. I mean, they gave 120%, I guarantee you.
They had some tense moments.
Oh, yes. We had 2 crews had to spend the night on 2 trucks out in deep water, and they were, I don't think that they were worried that they were in any kind of danger. The trucks weren't able to move, and they couldn't get out at the time, but they weren't going anywhere. But we had trucks making rotations there, checking the water levels and advising people as they saw them to get out or get ready to get out. And then as it got closer to nightfall, probably a little after 8, we started we were telling people just leave now, and you know, don't worry about all your stuff, let's just get out. A lot of people got out. A lot of people left ahead of time. A lot of people, you know, put all their possessions up high. But there was some that just, you know, didn't think it was real until they saw the water. And then by the time they saw the water, it was, you know, it was too late. You can't stop it. And you know, I don't know what to say. It was just amazing that everything worked out. And one point I would like to mention that there was no loss of life, no loss of human life in Wilson County. And I credit that to all the people in the area, you know, keeping their cool and working together and you know, doing a good job.
From Lavernia, we fly north to New Braunfels and find all the places we love to play on the Comal and Guadalupe rivers with a new and heartbreaking look. Schlitterbahn is a muddy mess, and water levels are so high you can't even see all the places where the homes used to be.
I'm Don Ferguson, and I'm assistant to the city manager for the city of New Braunfels. And the rains came, and when they came, they didn't stop. It just seemed like it was never ending. It was just a consistent onslaught of heavy, heavy rain. There really wasn't much space between the drops, if you know what I mean. And truly, this was a historical flood, but this is a piece of history that I don't think, quite frankly, many people would like to remember. It was truly a nightmare. But we're wanting to tell folks that this is a community that was not built overnight, and it will be rebuilt. It may take some time, but we're underway with that process. We were very lucky in this flood in that this flood occurred during the daylight hours, and people were afforded the opportunity to see the water rising and take the higher ground. If it had happened at nighttime, it would have been totally different. You talk of the damage in the city, and I know what we've been asked frequently in the days that followed, which area was hardest hit. And I think the thing that best defines this flood is the fact that there really was one area you cannot define as the hardest hit. We had damage widespread throughout this city, whether it be the west side, whether it be the central area of town, whether it be the northeast. It really was all over the community. If you were near a body of water, the chances are good you took water. And the bigger stream of water, the bigger river of water, the more extensive the damage was. But when all was said and done, we had over 1,700 residences, whether that be a home, a condo, an apartment, 1,700 residential units that were either damaged or destroyed. The damage was also very extensive to our business community, as we had some 90 businesses that were damaged extensively and suffered many millions of dollars in damage. If there's anything good that comes out of an event like this, it's to see just how good the community really is in its response and its dealing with this situation. It was a matter of neighbors helping neighbors. Then the volunteers came, and boy, did they come. They came in mass. We had more than 600 Mormons from the Austin-San Antonio area. We had a team of some 40 salvage specialists from Michigan, the alert team that came in. And that's just to mention a few of the many, many volunteers. You know, New Braunfels is a can-do community, and I think clearly the days that followed the flood emphasized that, as this community really joined forces in the effort to get the rebuilding process underway.
Downriver towards Seguin, we find miles of boats and docks and houses wiped out, debris fields that defy description, with a few National Guard troops watching over what little is left.
I'm Victor Morgan. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Seguin.
Do you think this is the flood to end all floods? I mean, could it get any worse than this?
I don't know. I didn't think it could get this bad. The most challenging for me, I guess, or for the City of Seguin, I guess, was we were shut off from everybody from on the outside as far as roads were concerned. All our long distance was down as far as phone lines were concerned. Trying to bring in supplies in the very beginning for the people that needed them in the shelters. Security to the subdivisions. I drove through there. Everybody's personal belongings were strewn out throughout the subdivisions from the flood. Anywhere from houses on houses to boats inside of houses. It was pretty bad.
Dollar totals are still being calculated for infrastructure destruction to dams, bridges, roads, sewage treatment plants, water facilities.
Do you think there's really a way to put into words how overwhelming this is?
I sure couldn't do it. Maybe somebody else can, but I can't. From all the help and compassion from our community and from everywhere else from around the world. I'm in Michigan. I just couldn't believe we had people coming in from Michigan to help us just to volunteer their time. You know, the things that people, little things that people donated, anywhere from clothing to appliances. It's just amazing. They see people in need of help, they reach out and help them. You can't be prepared enough for a disaster. Otherwise it wouldn't be called a disaster.
And in Seguin, we find what has become perhaps the most memorable moment of the flood of '98. Clementine, a cow on a roof. It's video that's been seen around the country. We've heard from friends and family in Florida, Nevada, Washington State, and New York, and they all wonder the same thing. How could this happen? The answer is revealed on the backside of the house. A wall collapses, the roof goes with it, and the cow floats or walks right up on top to wait out the storm. You can see cowboys on horseback in the roundup of their lives. Clementine was understandably shaken, so it takes a while, but she's finally roped and convinced to head for greener,
albeit soggier pastures. On Monday, October 19th, Sky 12 heads for Floresville with instructions to meet up with our NewStar satellite truck. We have no trouble finding our ground crew beside a blocked highway with very big water.
I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for Wilson County, Fran Randall. Sunday and Monday, we were actually totally isolated from the surrounding areas because we were cut off by all four sides between the Cibolo and the San Antonio rivers. It was just much larger than we have ever seen the San Antonio River. Everyone in Wilson County responded. It was just overwhelming. The people that did work together, and when called upon and not even really called upon, just were aware of the situation, volunteered their services. In fact, the people from Stockdale even volunteered and were assisting us. Their EMS people, shorthanded as they may be, were out there working right along everyone else. And it's just always been a community that's worked together.
We go on to Gonzales, where a housing complex for seniors has been evacuated.
I'm Andy Rodriguez. I'm the Gonzales County Emergency Management Coordinator. There was a levee that broke just south of the Gonzales Dam. We lost probably 40 foot of levee, 40 feet wide, and we were pulling water in there at, it was rising at 1 foot per 5 minutes. We had 80 units there that we evacuated in less than 15 minutes. We didn't have time to knock on the door, and some of them can't even hear you if they didn't have the hearing aid in, for instance, and so we didn't have time to concern ourselves with that, with the water rising that fast. You know, you've got somebody busting through your door, breaking into your home, of course they're scared.
Then south of Gonzales, flying in a northwesterly direction, just look how far we fly, with the Guadalupe Ocean raging below.
We've lost thousands of head of cattle here, and the agricultural loss is going to be, it'll be a devastating effect to our economy in this a rural community like we have in a rural county that we are. This is not a rich county, so this is going to be felt for a long time. As we are recovering, you know, the four phases of emergency management are mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Well, we responded to the flood, and now we're recovering from it. In the middle of our recovery, we're already mitigating. I mean, we're looking to see what we could have done to make things better, or how we might make some changes for the future. And this has been an eye-opener, I think, for everyone.
Even more destruction is still ahead, though. Just take a look at what we find on the road to Cuero. It's a house on the highway. It's a site that adds a whole new meaning to the term moving day. Could it get any worse? Just ask the people of Cuero. The city is under there somewhere.
I'm Corliss Redazel, and I'm the city manager for the city of Cuero. I think God was watching over us because the reports on the weekend was still that the river would not crest until Wednesday, and would crest at 41 feet, which of course it crested on Monday at 48 plus feet. When the water started rising on Monday morning, it was daylight. Our emergency management coordinator had gone out very early and done his own drop test. It had risen a tremendous amount, and they came into town, and the county judge immediately issued an order to start evacuating, which was turned over to the police departments and to start handing out flyers. And we started in the outlining areas coming into town, and we're talking about over 3,000 people that have been displaced. Our population is 6,700 people. Yeah, so basically half of our family and friends are not in their homes. The city estimates that 1,200 homes had some type of flood water in them. We have been advised that 643 of our homes inside our city have been totally destroyed. we've got this map that we've got drawn off where the floodwaters came in, and if you look at that, you know, approximately 50% of our town had water in it. A number of people's homes completely have disappeared. They are not on their foundations. They are not in the city, and the ones that some of those, I should say, that floated did land in the middle of city streets.
How many houses do you think completely disappeared, like can't find them?
I would have to say we're looking at anywhere from 5 to 8 homes that are missing. You know, they completely left the lot which they were on. And there are numerous houses that are on the lots, but they're off their foundations. I saw one small structure that is laying on its side. When I say a structure, it's a small home. I went into an area in the south end of town, I want to say southeast side of the city, and I was going like, where's the water line on the house? And the gentleman that I was with says, well, if you look up in those trees and see the trash at the top, that's where the water line was. So the homes that we were driving around looking at were completely buried underwater. It's amazing. It's an amazing sight.
What do you think that this whole event has done to the psychology of people in town?
Well, basically, the people of Cuero have a wonderful spirit. We continue to appreciate the thoughts and prayers and phone calls that we get from people, because it's going to be those things that's going to keep lifting us up and keep helping us to move forward.
The race downstream reaches Victoria, where again the Guadalupe is faster and higher than expected, where it's the rail being run out of town by a river, where a lonely cow would hold her ground if only she could find some.
I'm Vance Riley, and I'm the fire chief for the city of Victoria. We originally thought we had about 4 days to prepare for a flood that would just barely be over a previous record, and instead we ended up having about 24 hours to prepare for a biblical level flood of 3 or 4 feet higher than what was predicted. The lessons learned, first of all, we need a much better way to classify floods and flash floods that give people a better idea of the intensity or severity that's predicted. And I've asked the National Weather Service to consider categorizing them from a scale of 1 to 5, and then people may have a better idea. And if we come tell them it's a category 4 or 5, they'll understand they really need to get out that way. I think it's important to never second-guess Mother Nature and always err on the side of expecting the worst.
So we find ourselves back where we began, in the air over Victoria, with both a plea and a prayer. A plea to remember these brutal lessons the next time.
Clearly, this particular event defined just how mean Mother Nature can really be sometimes, and it should really, you know, pass on the dangers that exist when you hear about flash flood warnings, and when you hear of the threat and the possibility of floods, and that people need to take notice and move to higher ground.
And a prayer of thanksgiving for the unstoppable spirit of South Texans.
That's what's neat about living in a small town, Sue. It's you love everybody a little bit harder when something like this takes place, and you want to hug everybody you see walking down the street.
You are so awesome.
That's just good folks.
For all you good folks from Sky 12, with respect and a deep affection, Sue Kalberg, KSAT 12 News.